Malay, you are mute. Hello, Malay.
Yeah.
Huh. You can
Okay.
start.
Good evening to all of you. This is Malay on behalf of GUSEC. I welcome you all to a session on government grants for startups, how to get started. Before we move on to session, I would like to brief about GUSEC. GUSEC is a Gujarat University is a technology business incubator supported by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. GUSEC is also a nodal institution of Industries Commissionerate to implement Startup Assistance Scheme. GUSEC is also a nodal body to implement a signature student startup and innovation policy of Department of Education, Government of Gujarat. GUSEC has been there since early 2016, have supported nearly 234 startups. These startups have done extremely well. They have generated a revenue nearly 14 and 14 plus crores and generated 666 jobs, which is the core aim of starting any startup and creating of economic viability. There has been always a question about how to fund your startups. So the first thing that comes into any aspiring entrepreneur's mind is how are we going to strive this idea without funds? So the first question comes that what kind of different government initiatives are there, and what kind of financial support are being made available to these startups. So today I have Ankit, my colleague who leads operations and grants at GUSEC. I'll just hand over the baton to him and he'll guide you through various state as well as central government grants. So over to you, Ankit.
Thank you, Malay. Hello, everyone. I welcome you all to this session on government grants for the startups. So before we move ahead, and let me just share my screen. Malay, is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So before we move ahead and understand about what all government schemes and grants are available for startups, I would like to just share with you all that recently we had organized an advanced level workshop on how to start a startup. So there's a link given in this presentation. So I would recommend all of you, those who have not attended the session, to just quickly, like later on, go on this link and have a basic understanding on how to start a startup. Then this presentation and this information will be more helpful to you while going ahead. And we are also like all the content that all the works that we do is available on our YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram profile. So I would like you all to visit our page and do follow and subscribe. Yeah. So moving ahead, we'll start with the first grant, which is provided under SSIP by Education Department, which is called Student Startup and Innovation Policy. So under this policy, there is a provision of like a proof of concept grant, which is up to rupees 2 lakhs for developing a proof of concept. So this grant has a basic eligibility criteria where whoever is applying should be a student or a recent alumni up to 5 years, and if he or she is a student or an alumni, he should be they should be from the Gujarat based institute or a university which is recognized. And the other criteria is that particular startup should be at the ideation stage, and that particular innovator should have done at least 3 months of work on that particular idea. So if you are fulfilling this eligibility criteria, then you can apply for this particular scheme. This amount of 2 lakhs of rupees under this policy has been given with the thought of like there are a lot of projects at the college or institute level in the final year projects. So there is a possibility that these projects can be converted into a possible startups. So that's the reason that the government had introduced this policy and had introduced this particular pool of grant under proof of concept for the student and a recent alumni. So if you are falling into, if you are fulfilling all these eligibility criteria, then you can apply for this particular grant. So I'll be going through each and every grant step by step on what is the eligibility criteria, what are the benefits, how to avail these funds, and once I brief you about one particular policy, then we can have a questions and which you guys can ask us via YouTube or a Facebook or any other channels. And then we can move ahead to the next grant. So this was the eligibility criteria for the SSIP. Moving ahead, if anyone is getting this assistance of 2 lakhs of rupees, then how and where they can use this money. So this is the breakdown of that particular fund. So 75% of that amount can be used to purchase some consumables or raw materials or any of the minor work which you need to get it done in order to develop your proof of concept. And the remaining 25% of fund can be used for any professional services that you wanted to avail, or you wanted to avail some kind of a mentorship, or you wanted to have your product being designed, or you wanted to use some testing facilities or etc. So 25% of the sanctioned amount can be used for that particular portion, but that should not exceed the 50,000 of amount. So this funding assistance of rupees it's up to 2 lakhs of rupees, but that doesn't mean you will only get 2 lakhs of rupees. If you are fulfilling all the criteria, if you are doing well, and if you have utilized the funds in an appropriate way, and you have developed your product, then there is a possibility that your project may be recommended for the additional funds based on the due approvals from the state government. So moving ahead, the process. So if you want to avail this fund, if you are fulfilling the eligibility criteria, if you believe that the usage of funds is as per your plan, then how do you apply for this particular grant? So it's very simple. So you need to go to the mentioned link, which will land you to an application form which is available on our website. You need to share your idea and all the details related to your idea and everything. Once you apply over there, it will be getting your application. So we'll be scrutinizing it, and then your idea will be selected by a committee where you will be pitching your idea, where you'll be discussing about where you are going to use this fund, why you wanted to pursue this idea, what are your plan of action, and all those things will be discussed with the committee. And then you go ahead, and then a committee decides, okay, we are going to fund this particular startup. So if the committee decides your particular idea for that particular grant, then comes the documentation part, where we'll be incubating you at GUSEC, and also there are few documents which requires due diligence document which is required to be submitted, so that the grants, so that we can ensure that the grant is being used for relevant and appropriate purpose. And once all these documents are submitted, then there is a standard process where according to which the grant is being disbursed. So that's the particular process through which you can avail the grant under the SSIP scheme. So how the funds are disbursed. So once you have reached to the final stage where you have fulfilled all the documentation part, and now you are supposed to get the grant, there is a progress-based disbursement. So you need to show some progress, or you need to give us a progress report of at least like 2 to 3 months, where you will be describing about what all work you have done on that particular project. Then depending upon that, the grant will be disbursed. Now, according to the state government guidelines, if your expense are under 5,000, that can be reimbursed to the startup itself. That can be reimbursed to the startup itself, and it's okay. And if the amount is more than 5,000, then the payment will go directly to the vendor. So under this scheme, only the invoices less than 5,000 will be reimbursed to the particular startups. If your expenses are more than 5,000, you need to contact to a vendor, and you need to procure service from the vendors, and then the GUSEC will be paying directly to the vendors. So that's how it will work. So that's how your grant will be disbursed, and that's how you will be utilizing the grant. And additional to this, you need to also submit a utilization certificate where you will be certifying that okay, this particular amount had been utilized for procuring this particular thing. So there's a standard format for all these documents which we need to follow. So this is how the disbursement of funds will go ahead. You submit a progress report. You decide that if is your expense more than 5,000 or less than 5,000. If it's more, then you need to go and get talk to the vendor and get the service done, and then they'll be paying back. And if it's less than 5,000, then we'll be paying as a reimbursement against the invoices which you provided to us. And then the utilization certificate, it needs to be submitted. So this is the disbursement guidelines for under the startup SSIP. So before we go ahead to the next grant, Malay, can we have questions? So are we having any questions for the scheme?
As of now, there are no questions. But so as what you said is the last 5 years of alumni of any institute. So is it necessary to be the institute to be inside Gujarat state, right?
Yes. So if you are a student of any of the recognized institute or a university based out of Gujarat, or if you are an alumni of any recognized institute of based out of Gujarat, then you can apply for this fund.
Right. And those who have graduated in 2015 or more, those will be eligible for the SSIP grant.
Yeah, so considering the current time, so all the graduates after 2015-16 can apply for this, but not before that.
Correct. So I guess Ankit, you may move forward. I'll request all the participants to mention their questions in the comment section of both Facebook as well as YouTube. We'll try to resolve queries depending on the grants. So as we finish the SSIP right now, we are moving towards SAS. So if you have any questions related to SSIP as well as this current scheme which is going to be discussed now, you can just write your questions in the comment section below. Ankit, over to you.
Okay. So moving ahead, I'll be talking about another state government grant which is provided by Industries Commissionerate, Government of Gujarat. So that scheme is called Scheme for Assistance for Startups and Innovations. So this scheme was introduced back in 2015 under Gujarat Industrial Policy. So under this scheme, a startup can avail benefits up to 21.4 lakhs. So moving ahead, and let us understand what is the breakdown of funds under this 21.4 lakhs of grant. So this includes 10 lakhs of prototype development assistance, 10 lakhs for marketing assistance, and 1.2 lakhs as a sustenance allowance. But in case if the particular startup is applying for this fund is led by a woman co-founder, then this 1.2 lakhs as a sustenance allowance becomes 1.4 lakhs for 1 year. So this is the breakdown of the funds for 21.4 lakhs of grant. Moving ahead to the eligibility criteria. So as it was mentioned in SSIP grant, it should be on the ideation stage, but here for this particular grant, the startup needs to complete the proof of concept stage. So if the startup has reached to this level, then they can apply for this grant. The next eligibility criteria is that the particular startup who is applying for this particular grant needs to have a private limited or LLP registered in Gujarat itself. It cannot be registered in any other state, and it should be a private limited or an LLP. Proprietorship doesn't work here. The another criteria which is necessary, eligibility criteria which is necessary, is that the innovator who is applying for this particular grant should not own more than 10% of shares in any of the other company. So if particular person who is running a startup is also having some stakes or some shares in any other company which is more than 10%, then they cannot apply it over here. The other criteria is that that particular startup needs to go through minimum 2 months of incubation support at the particular nodal institute via which they are going to apply for this fund. So it's necessary to apply through a nodal institute. So GUSEC, as Malay mentioned earlier, that GUSEC is also nodal institute for disbursing this particular grant. So if in case you want to avail this grant, then you need to get incubated at GUSEC and avail at least 2 months of incubation support. And the most necessary required eligibility criteria is that the major operations should be based out of Gujarat. So these are the basic eligibility criteria under which if an innovator is fulfilling all this criteria, then they can apply for this grant. Moving ahead, talking about the usage of the funds, where it can be used. So as mentioned earlier, this grant is split into 3 different parts. So 10 lakhs for prototype developments can be used to purchase consumables, raw materials, for professional services, marketing, minor work. So all these kind of expenses which are necessary to develop your prototype can be posted here and can be utilized under this budget head. So if you are availing prototype development funds, then you can use that for this particular purposes. Other is that the 10 lakhs of marketing assistant funds, which can be used in expenses that are related to the printing or an electronic media, or it can be a consultancy. So you can loop in any marketing firm who is into this, who is into this marketing of your product. You can also involve the research agency, which can give you the data about the market or the survey data. So all this kind of expenses which helps the product to market well can be posted under this particular grant, under this particular budget. The other is the sustenance allowance funds, which was 1.2 lakhs in the normal case, where there are only male founders and co-founders, and 1.4 lakhs if there is a female co-founders. So this sustenance allowance is capped at rupees 10,000 per month for 1 year, so that becomes 1.2 lakhs. But in case of woman co-founder, it's 12,000 per month for 1 year, so that becomes 1.4 lakhs. But this totally depends on the submission of a detailed monthly progress report. So if you have been selected for this particular sustenance allowance by Industries Commissionerate, then you need to submit detailed monthly progress report, based on which the sustenance allowance, which is like 12,000 or 10,000, will be released. So these are the criteria, these are the usage of funds, how it can be used under this particular scheme. Now talking about the disbursement of the funds. So how, as in SSIP, it was like if it's 5,000, less than 5,000, it goes to startup. If it's more than 5,000, it goes to vendor. But here the case is a little different. So here also a detailed progress report is required. Other thing is that as it's required to have a LLP or a private limited company registered, so the funds will be given it to startups here itself. So if a particular startup is sanctioned for rupees 10 lakhs of prototype funds, then this 10 lakhs is going to be credited in the startup's bank account itself, but that will be credited based on the submission of the CA audited invoices. So if a startup is submitting, let's say, invoices which is worth of rupees 5 lakhs, then we are going to give him the 5 lakhs rupees. And if he is going to submit invoices, CA audited invoices of 2.5 lakhs, then we are going to give 2.5 lakhs. So that totally depends on what kind of invoices and as per the guidelines the startup is submitting. So this money will go to the startups and not to any vendor itself. No, not to any vendor. Then other thing is that if in case the startups has not done a significant expense and he or she is not having a significant amount to claim as a reimbursement, then they can also give us a planned expenditure, where they can give us a relevant documents which clarifies on what kind of expense they are going to give. So they need to give us that planned expense, and based on that, the grant may be released. That particular amount can be released. Later, after this both kind of disbursement, they need to submit a utilization reports and other relevant documents. So if they have given us a planned expense and we have disbursed the grant, then they need to submit the invoices for all those planned expenses while submitting the utilization certificate. So this is something which is required while availing the grant. So this was about the disbursement of the funds and the scheme for assistance for startups and innovations. Now the process. So if you have understood the eligibility criteria and how where it can be used and how the funds are disbursed, and if you are interested to apply for this particular fund, then you can then what you need to do is you need to go to the Startup Gujarat portal. The link is given on the screen, and we are also going to share this presentation with all of you also. So you need to go to the Startup Gujarat portal, which is startupgujarat.in. So over there you need to register as an innovator. So once you are on the page and you are filling up your form, filling up your form, you will be asked to select a nodal institute. So if you wanted to avail the grant via GUSEC as an incubation center, you need to select the GUSEC as a nodal institute and for the incubation. So we are going to get your application. We are going to scrutinize it based on what all information you are providing on the form. Based on that, there will be a 3-level scrutiny of the application. The first level will be at the GUSEC level. Then the other 2-level scrutiny will be done by the Industries Commissioner Department. So based on our recommendation, they are going to screen your application. Then if the screening at the industries level is being done and you are selected for a particular grant, then we are going to get your funds, and then based on the documents which you are going to submit for the disbursement of fund, we are going to disburse it. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, the disbursement of funds, you need to submit the relevant documents over here, and then the amount will be credited to the particular startup's bank account. So this is how the whole process works as under the Startup Gujarat scheme. So this scheme recently has been updated. So as per the recently announced Industrial Policy 2020, the marketing and product development support of rupees 20 lakhs has been increased to 30 lakhs. Then the sustenance allowance, which was like 1.2 lakhs, has been increased to 2.4 lakhs in a normal case. And if there's a woman-led startups, it's going to be 3 lakhs. So that sustenance allowance has also been increased. Additionally, there will be support of rupees 3 lakhs if the startups has been doing well and need an acceleration support. Plus, there will be additional 1 lakh of support for the skill development of particular startups. So this updated policy has been introduced by the government recently, and we are expecting that this will be coming into force as soon as possible. So this scheme will be revamped. So now there will be more assistance for startup in terms of seed funding plus marketing support. So, Malay, moving ahead to the next scheme, which is being disbursed by GUSEC, do we have any questions for this particular scheme?
Yes, we have a bunch of questions for SAS as well as SSIP. I would like to highlight with the question from Animesh. Animesh is asking, any stake taken in this grant of my startup? So I guess these are the government grants and they don't need equity. So ये ऐसा फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट है जो एक स्टार्टअप को दिया जाता है अगेंस्ट देयर विल to their commitment to work towards their own idea in pursuing their startup. So there are milestones जो सेट किए जाते हैं एक इंक्यूबेटर और स्टार्टअप के बीच में, वो milestones आपको रीच करने हैं और वैसे जैसे जैसे आप माइलस्टोन रीच करते हैं वैसे आपको फंड पूरा डिसबर्समेंट होता है. सो देयर इज नो स्टेक टेकन बाय एनीवन इन दीज गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट्स. Bhuvan was asking,
Malay, adding to that, I would like to also highlight that there is also detailed guidelines for this particular for all the schemes and the links for that will be sharing in the last slide. But adding to what Malay said, is that government don't expect you to opt this grant as a subsidiary of what you are doing. Like if you are studying and if you are also doing startup, then you cannot consider it as like a byproduct or like something additional which you are doing. The government expect you to work on this full time, so it cannot be treated as like a part-time thing. So government is not taking stake for these grants, but the government expects you to work on this seriously and full time and do well. So yeah.
Fair enough. So I guess Bhuvan was asking, is this government India scheme? So Bhuvan, the scheme, two schemes that what we discussed till now, SSIP as well as the SAS are of government of Gujarat. There are government of India schemes which we will discuss in this session later. Uh, Hiren is asking, I guess Ankit, you may answer the question. What is the process for IT software related startups?
Okay, so we are going to brief you about the IT and electronics policy by Department of Science and Technology, Government of Gujarat. So I think he can wait for a few slides to go.
Right, correct. Nisarg is asking that 5 years. Yeah, so Nisarg 5 years is the duration that usually a student has to pursue. कि आप या तो करंट स्टूडेंट हैं या तो आप लास्ट 5 साल में पढ़ चुके हैं. So either you have finished your graduation on or after 2015. So then you are eligible for the SSIP grant. Jay Pandya is asking, how much time will it take from applying to getting funds? Ankit?
For which particular grant?
So I guess it was the earlier question. So for SSIP, how much time it will take? And then you can also brief about SAS.
See, that depends on the startup. So if we are getting an application from us, we get a lot of application for availing grant. So we do scrutinize on a regular basis. So I guess depending upon the documentation the startup provides, the timeline can vary. So there's no particular timeline for this. So that totally depends on the startup, how early they respond as per the due process.
Okay. Going forward, Dinta Bagashia is asking, is there any time limit for finish this idea to startup stage?
Yeah, so there is a time limit. So ideally, there's 1 year time limit that if we are supporting for any startup under SSIP or SAS, so we expect them to reach to that milestone within 1 year of time duration. But if in case there are some issues or something which is not in our control, then then the incubation center and the startup can have a mutual contribution.
Correct, correct. Going forward, Harsh has an interesting question. Can the same startup be eligible for SAS after receiving SSIP?
Yeah, they can. So SSIP, as I mentioned, is a grant for developing a proof of concept. So if they have availed that grant and have developed the proof of concept, then they can go ahead and tap for the prototype development fund at the startup scheme.
So in general, I would like to tell everyone that usually you start getting funds slowly. So once you raise a small amount of money to make sure your proof of concept. So someone also is also asked that what is proof of concept. So I guess proof of concept is your concept turning into a product or a service. So what you have thought as a solution, it comes on a realistic as a product or a service that one can use. So once you raise a small amount of money, then you develop a proof of concept, then you explore more, then you launch your beta version, then you update your the current model, and then you raise more money using the SAS grant. So I guess that should be the ideal scenario of getting first SSIP and then SAS.
Yes.
Question. Darshak is asking, so exactly what we have to do for registration? Give only ideation level project, or we should have work on it for some least time?
So ideally, we expect the startup should have worked on that particular idea for some duration of time. As I mentioned in SSIP, at least 1 or 2 months of work should be done in order to apply for these funds. And in case of startup assistance scheme by Industries Commissionerate, minimum 2 months of incubation support is required. This criteria is let down by the government because the prototype funds are like quite a big amount, like 10 lakhs of rupees is like initially a good amount to start with. So the government expect the nodal institute, the GUSEC and such other nodal institute to nurture these startups and then apply for this particular scheme.
Correct. Okay. Going forward, I'll take Hiren's question followed by Nipa. Hiren is asking, can partnership firm go through this?
As of now, no. But maybe in the new policy which has been introduced recently, the detailed guidelines, we are availing the detailed guidelines under it. So we hope for the best.
Okay. So Nipa's question in line with the Hiren's, our startup is formatted as partnership firm led by female co-founder. So what kind of benefits they can avail?
So as of now, if they are at the ideation stage, then they can apply for the SSIP fund if they are fulfilling the eligibility criteria.
Right. Qureshi Sarfaraz is asking, I got a grant from GIC, but I require additional funds. I am eligible for getting grant in GUSEC.
Yeah, that depends on the incubation center. So GUSEC and GIC need to need to have a dialogue and understand what kind of support they have given it to that particular startup and at what stage they are and how they have used that fund.
Correct.
That totally depends on the due diligence.
Right. Pranav Kumar Singh is asking, are service-based startups also eligible for this funds via Gujarat Startup Policy up to 21.4 lakhs?
Yes, they can apply.
Okay. Again, Kunal is asking regarding equity. Kunal is asking for a SAS, does the incubator demand any equity in the company in exchange for incubation? So no, we don't demand any kind of equity as of our current policies. And also, as I said, government grants are is a financial support given to an idea which seems feasible, which seem to be creating a economic viability as to generate jobs. So that's why government is supporting and funding a certain amount of money in your startup. Animesh again asking, I am from Delhi. I don't mind getting my startup registered in Gujarat itself. Am I eligible for 21.4 lakh grant?
Yeah, if you wanted to, if you have an idea and you believe that you can start your operations in Gujarat and have your company registered in Gujarat, then yeah, you can apply for the fund.
Correct. Anurag's question seems interesting. What about people who have applied before the Gujarat Industrial Policy to SAS grant? Will the grant be of 20 lakh or 30 lakhs?
Is it like they have already availed the funds and they're yet to receive the funds? So that depends.
So okay, it's a again.
So I think the case is like they have already applied, but they have not heard anything from the Nodal Institute. So they are into the middle of nowhere. Like, so what should they do? So I think that is the case. So I guess in that case, I think they should contact us, and then later on we can discuss and decide what to do ahead.
Right. So I'll take a last question, then we move to a next startup grant. The last
Yeah.
question is from Utpal. Is there any startup fund available for agriculture, dairy farming training program or in line to that?
Yeah, you can apply for the SSIP scheme. So there is no sector barrier in terms of like SSIP or SS policy as of now. So you can apply for these schemes.
Correct. So I guess Ankit, you can take forward the session. We'll wait for more questions and then we can take
Sure.
it forward.
Sure. So moving ahead, so we had already talked about SSIP and SS. These two grants are being disbursed at the GUSEC level, and we are going to talk about one more grant which is disbursed at GUSEC level, which is from the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. So under the Mighty Startup Hub, GUSEC has received a grant to fund startups. And the particular scheme is called as the Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs. That is called as TIDE 2.0 scheme. So under this, the startups can avail benefits in terms of grant up to 40 lakhs. So as you can see on your screen, there's a category of funds. So this 40 lakhs includes so there can be a 4 lakhs of funds for the idea validation. There can be 7 lakhs of fund for proof of concept or an MVP, and then can be an investment opportunity or a marketing grant up to rupees 40 lakhs. So these are the three categories under which the startups can get funds under this particular scheme. So moving ahead, talking about the eligibility for the 4 lakhs of grant. So that particular startup needs to be a technology based idea, and this particular idea should have a societal impact solution. So they should be working on such solution which is going to impact and impact the society at large. And this particular startup should be at the ideation or an early stage startup. So these are the eligibility criteria if they want, if the particular startup wants to avail this 4 lakhs of grant under the type scheme. Now talking about the eligibility criteria for the 7 lakhs of grant, which is for the proof of concept stage startups. So the startup needs to be at the proof of concept stage, so they cannot be at the ideation stage. And the rest of the 2 eligibility criteria remains the same, that that particular startup needs to be a technology based idea and should have the solutions. They should be working on such kind of a solution which is going to create a societal impact at large. And the last the category is the eligibility for 40 lakhs of investment support, which is for the marketing or the growth stage startup. So again, they should be having a technology based idea, as the name of the scheme itself is about the technology and electronics. So the idea should be based on the technology. They should be creating a societal impact solutions, and they should be previously funded under the 4 lakhs or 7 lakhs rupees grant. So if they are selected for 4 lakhs and 7 lakhs of rupees grant, then and only they can be eligible for availing this investment opportunity that is of 40 lakhs of rupees. So, and they need to be at the growth or the market outreach stage. So these are the eligibility criteria under this TIDE scheme. Talking about the usage of the funds, this is quite similar to the startup assistance scheme. So the prototype development funds, or which is like 7 lakhs and 4 lakhs rupees categories, can be used for consumables, raw materials, minor work, professional services, and all allied expenses which can be helpful for them to develop that particular prototype. The other is the marketing assistant funds, which is up to 40 lakhs of rupees, that can be used to the expense related to the print and electronic marketing expenses. It can be a consultancy also. It can be services for conducting research or surveys or etc. So if you are falling under the eligibility criteria, and if you wanted to avail 4 lakhs, 7 lakhs, or the 40 lakhs of grant, then these are the 2 major heads where you can use your grant. The disbursement of grant is quite similar to the startup assistance scheme. The process remains the same. The disbursement of funds will be based on the progress report. So everyone needs to understand that the disbursement of fund under any of the grant is going to be based on the progress report. So if the startup is going to progress, they are going to get funds at the regular interval in tranches. So that also helps the nodal institute or an incubation center to keep a track on that the funds are being utilized for the particular purpose. So this particular disbursement process is much required. Again, the disbursement will be given, the funds will be given to the innovators registered bank account, the registered company bank account, where they can claim the reimbursement against the invoices, CA audited invoices, or they can give us a planned expenditure where they are going to talk about where they are going to show their planned expenditure, where they're going to do the expenses, and then later they need to submit the utilization reports and other relevant documents or invoices which is necessary. So this is the disbursement outline. The process, if you wanted to avail this scheme, if you wanted to apply under this scheme, you believe that you have a technology based idea, you are creating a societal based solution, and which is quite impactful, and you believe that you are at the ideation stage, you can go to this particular link. You can apply for your startup, where you will be asked the basic questions about your idea and everything. Then your idea will be scrutinized at the 2-level scrutiny committee level. Then based on the selection, you will be asked to submit the relevant documents and the progress reports and everything which we discussed in the last slide under the disbursement outline. and then the funds are going to disburse. So this is the outline of the process that is going to be followed for disbursement of this particular grant under the TIDE scheme. So yes, Malay, any questions for
So
the
yeah,
scheme?
I'll start with Pranav's question again. Please guide on how much details and what details we must include in the application form for getting incubation and grant support. So the first question that I would like to resolve is there are two different application form. If you need a startup support, you can just log into gusec.edu.in/apply. You'll find out a incubation form which usually an applicant fills to get support from GUSEC. Now, for any different kind of funding part, there are different application forms for every grant, and we'll be sharing those links again to you. So usually we look for the economic viability that every idea has. The primary thing that we also look out for is the innovation. Third is the team competence, that how the team is competent enough to pursue their idea and their dedication towards the idea. And fourth, that how much jobs and opportunities they can generate, because eventually the motive of starting a startup is to solve in a problem with an innovative idea, and the second is to generate jobs. So I guess that's it. I hope I have answered much. Uh,
Any other
then
question?
yeah, Ankit, you want to add something?
No, any other questions?
Okay, so Nikhilesh is asking, what is the highest level of amount available for bigger ideas? So I don't know
So,
what
so
is the bigger idea,
this,
but
this depend on the various schemes. So SSIP has a cap of 2 lakhs. Startup Assistance Scheme has a cap of 21.2 lakhs. Mighty grant, that is TIDE 2.0, has a cap of 40 lakhs. The other grants which we are going to talk about has the different caps depending upon the what sectors they are. So currently, what we had discussed three schemes which supports ideas irrelevant of sectors. So next we are going to talk about some sector specific scheme which has a different caps. So there is no specific amount that I can say is the highest amount that a startup can get. But I believe that there are numerous number of schemes available for startups. They can visit this Startup Gujarat website. They can visit Startup India website. There are a lot of there are many schemes under MSME and whatnot. So I would suggest him to visit Startup India and Startup Gujarat website to check out what all schemes are available. If he additional schemes, if we are going to talk about the major schemes, but if he wants to know about more schemes, he can visit that website.
correct. Next question is from Devan Cheda. Uh, he's asking, what does one become eligible for the funding from GBFL?
So that depends on that particular startup at what stage they are and how much what level of product they've developed. So that depends on what kind of solution they are developing. So if they have reached to a significant level where investments and the venture capital people can come in, then of course they can avail grant from GPF, let's say, as well.
So adding to what Ankit said, usually a POC or a early idea stage startups need, usually a government grant support where they don't have a binding towards the, giving equity to the one who is funding the startup. But the investment comes in where you are at a certain stage, you have generated a certain number of numbers in terms of sales, marketing, revenue, and you are, your startup is good enough to dilute some equity against a good amount of funding. Then ideally you are at a stage where you should raise a money against the equity. So GBFL is again a government entity for the investment. Shubham's question is next. Is agrotech solution is applicable for TIDE 2.0?
Yes, they can.
Yes. So in line with that, Jay is asking, by technology, do you mean IT software or any product technology is also eligible?
They can apply if they are creating a technological solution is irrespective of if that is a product or a service or it's in something in a process, they can apply.
Correct. So adding to that, so if your product is heavily dependent on any IT related or electronics related mechanism or process or coding, so you are more fit to that Tide grant. So yes, you can apply to that. Pranav is again asking, are online service based startups also eligible for Tide 2.0?
That depends on if you have some idea which is providing online services. So how innovative it is and how much it can scale and what kind of market they are going to cater. So if they are into some very niche market, then it's up to the startups how they are going to survive if there's not that much significant market for that particular idea. So that totally depends on what kind of solution they are preparing. If it's online also, that's fine.
Right. Next question is from Nikhilesh. Any outsider from other countries starting a new startup in Gujarat can avail this? He's talking about Tide 2.0.
No, that particular innovator or a founder needs to be a citizen of India.
Correct. Uh, Harsh is asking for Tide. Should the startup be totally unique or novel technology, or can it be improved application or improved process of an existing technology?
No, they need to have new solutions in place. It cannot be a break of two different things and portraying a one particular idea. That cannot be done.
Correct. Aniket Jha is asking how will an ideation stage startup will submit their progress report?
So they can submit the research work that they have done. So if they have some idea, so there might be something back in their mind why they have landed on that particular idea, and they might have done some research, and based on which they have started working on that, right? So they need to submit those research or reports, some sort of a thing.
Correct. Adir ji asking all the schemes for startups from government of Gujarat or government of India, GUSEC is supporting. So
So no, right now we have talked about SSIP, that is Student Startup Innovation Policy, Startup Gujarat Policy, and Tide 2.0. So these three schemes are support. The support under these three schemes are given to startups via GUSEC. So these we can guide you on this, handhold you on this particular three schemes. But the next, which we are going to discuss about the other government schemes, which is from the Gujarat state government and the central government. That is where we can share the information regarding what kind of benefits they are providing and how to apply and what are the other criteria. All those information will be shared here. But if in case there is some support required from GUSEC as an incubation center, we are going to provide and we will be happy to provide.
correct. Dipali is asking, is there any deadline for applying for the application of Tide? So Dipali, we just concluded the second round of Tide application, and you just keep checking our Facebook as well as social media channels for the next update on the Tide. Uh, Last two questions, then you can.
Adding to this deadline question. So there's no particular deadline for applying grant for applying SSIP grant and Startup Gujarat grant. So these two particular schemes application form are open on rolling basis. While for the Tide, as Malay mentioned, there are particular time when the applications are open. So for that, you can keep check on our social media platforms and our website.
Right, right. Qureshi is asking, is there any benefit for physically challenged person? So, sir, there is no criteria of that kind of. If you just have an innovative idea, if you feel that this idea is good enough to raise, certain money and can solve a problem significantly and can reach out to maximum number of people. So you can just apply on the specific schemes, and we'll ensure all the possible support is catered to you. Last question, then we move to the next one. Can any food related idea eligible for 2.0 scheme? So Chirag, if you are asking about Tide, so no, Tide is specifically meant for electronics and IT startup. If you are doing anything around electronics and IT, then you are eligible for it. But other schemes like SAS and SSIP, you might look at those schemes for your startups. So Ankit, I guess you can move forward.
Yes. So as I mentioned that these three schemes which we discussed right now are being disbursed via GUSEC. So now we are going to talk about other government schemes from Gujarat government and the central government, and what are the supports, what are the benefits available under it. So first we are going to talk about the scheme which is for the electronics and IT or ITES startup policy, government of Gujarat, which is being provided by the Department of Science and Technology. So under this policy, the eligibility criteria for a startup is that that particular startup needs to have a registered entity which cannot be more than 5 years. So if you have registered entity and you have crossed 5 years to that registration date, then you are not eligible for this particular policy. The next is that the particular company which is registered should not have a turnover more than 25 crores. So that's another criteria. And the other is the particular startup should be working on an innovative idea which can be in terms of a product, process, or service. So there's no particular boundary for this. So you just need to have an innovative idea. So these are the eligibility criteria for this particular scheme. Now let's talk about what are the benefits available. So any startup who is eligible under this scheme can get 100% reimbursement of the stamp duty or any other registration fees that is aligned to the startup or any other agreements. But this should be the first transaction for that particular company. The other is that there is a lease rental subsidy. So if you wanted to have a rented space, then you can get a subsidy for that. So there's a criteria of 50 square feet per employee at the rate of rupees 15 per square feet per month, and it can be given it for an additional 2 years. So that is the lease rental subsidy. So if you are having a 10 employees, then you can get and subsidy for 500 square feet of space, which can be at the rate of 15 per square feet, and that will be given you on a monthly basis, which can be recurring for up to 2 years. So that's the subsidy for the rental space. The other is the interest subsidy. So if you have availed some loan and if you wanted to have a subsidy on that particular interest, but this should be the loan should be for your startup or a business purpose, then there's a subsidy of rupees 9% per annum, but there's a cap of up to rupees 2 lakhs for 2 years. So this subsidy can be given up till 2 years, and there's a cap of rupees 2 lakhs. So not more than 2 lakhs can be given. The other is the patent assistance is being given under this scheme. So under which the subsidy is given if it can be a 70%, 75% of the cost, but up to a ceiling of rupees 10 lakhs for domestic and 5 lakhs for the international patent. And the quantum of such particular transaction can be up to 10 lakhs for international patent and up to 2 lakhs for domestic patents. So these are the assistance under the patent scheme. The other is the bandwidth subsidy, so which can be 70% of the annual charges, but it can be availed up to rupees 20,000 up to 2 years. So then there's a cap of rupees 20,000, or there can be a subsidy of 70%, but it can be of up to 2 years. The other benefit is about the skill certification grant. So which can the startup can avail rupees 5,000 per certificate per person, but up to a ceiling of rupees 1 lakh per annum for the period of duration of 2 years. The other benefit associated is the marketing and product development assistance. So there is a assistance for the product development and marketing under this scheme as well. but it's 1 lakh each. So in startup assistance scheme, you are getting 10 lakhs for product and 10 lakhs for marketing. But here you are only getting 1 lakh for product and 1 lakh for marketing. But here there are additional supports as available as well. The last but not the least, the very interesting point is that if a particular startup is raising some fund of, let's say, around like 1 crore, then from a registered venture capitalist, then they will be getting a 25% of that funds which they have raised as a grant by GVFL, but this cannot go about 5 crore. So if a startup has raised 1 crore rupees of equity funds from a venture capitalist, then they can get an additional 25 lakhs of grant from GPFL. So this is a quite interesting support which is available under this scheme, and I think this can help a startup a lot. So these are the two. So these are the benefits available under the electronics and IT based startup policy. So I've also mentioned a link over here where they can apply. GUSEC is not involved directly while we talk about giving the support to startups. So they need to apply directly on the particular website or that which is being mentioned over here. So they can apply, and that their application will be scrutinized and screened by the department itself. And all these benefits are given on the reimbursement and the submission of the relevant proof of documents basis. So yes, Malay. So any question for this particular grant or any other questions?
Not specifically for this grant. There is a question from Abhijit. He is asking, can startups from other state can apply to Gujarat startup schemes? Is there any provision to that?
No. As I mentioned, the criteria is that the particular startup operations should be majorly based in Gujarat, and the company which is registered should be registered in Gujarat. So these are the two criteria. So, but there's no limitation in if any other person from other state is coming here. If he's registering a company over here, and if his operations are based here, then they can avail the funds.
Correct. Nisarg is asking, is there any policy related to chemical engineering startup idea?
So all those schemes which are sector agnostic, those schemes are available for him to apply.
Correct. I guess that's it. For no more questions as of now. But before you go ahead, I would like to tell the audience that we are sharing this information in a good faith, and applicants, must check with the scheme guidelines, rules, and timelines for any changes from time to time on official website. But in the meantime, if you have any query which regarding the grants that is being catered by GUSEC, you can just drop us an email with details. We'll get back to you on that. So I guess Ankit, you may go forward, and if you are okay, you can finish the big as well as both Nidhi grants before we jump to next Q&A part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next we are going to talk about a grant from Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. That is the BIRAC. So the grant name is Biotechnology Ignition Grant. So it's also called as BIG scheme under Department of Biotechnology. So the eligibility for this particular grant is that the particular startup should be conducting the innovation or the development of the product in the biotechnology sector. So there are specific things which are being mentioned under the policy when we talk about that, what exactly does it mean when we talk about conducting innovation in biotechnology sectors. So it can be in devices and diagnostics, it can be in drugs and the drug delivery, it can be in industrial biotechnology, agriculture, it can be in the stem cells, vaccines, bioinformatics, and other allied facilities. So these are the broader areas where that particular idea or that particular innovation should be around or focused upon. The next is that the particular idea or particular startup should be at the ideation stage. They cannot be at the advanced prototype level stage or should be in the market. So they should be at the ideation stage. And other criteria is that the individual applicant who is applying for this particular grant should be an Indian citizen and should be at least a graduate. And the next is that the applicant who is applying for this grant should be supported and incubated at any particular incubation center. It can be across India, not necessarily it should be based out of Gujarat. If any particular employer is applying for this particular grant, then they need to have an NOC or a no objection certificate or something, some sort of that document from their employer. So if their idea is being selected, they should be having no objection for this. And if in case any company is applying for this, then that company should not be it should not be earlier than 5 years of their existence. So these are the eligibility criteria for availing the biotechnology ignition grant. Talking about the benefits, so the benefits under this scheme is up to 50 lakhs for the biotech related startups for the development and research. So these funds of 50 lakhs can be used for buying equipments, components, hiring skilled manpower for team building. There are travel cost involved, incubation charges, rentals, or any engaging services. So all the things which is required for making that particular idea work, all those expenses can be posted under this particular grant. So this is how that particular fund can be used. So this is the overall about the biotechnology ignition grant. So I have briefed you about the eligibility criteria, what are the benefits, and where these funds can be used. Now, if in case you believe that this particular policy can help your startup grow, we have mentioned link over here. You can visit, you can apply for your idea via this link. So if there will be any assistance required from GUSEC as an incubation center, we'll be happy to provide. Next, we are going to talk about another scheme from Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, which is Nidhi Prayas. So this particular grant has an eligibility criteria where the startup needs to be at the POC stage. That particular individual who is applying for this particular idea should be an Indian citizen and should be having an age between 18 to 35. So here there's an age bar coming in the picture. So the other criteria is that the applicant cannot be a researcher or an academician engaged in teaching. So if you are a researcher or a PhD scholar, or if you are an academician who is engaged in teaching or you are associated with some research organization, you cannot apply for this grant. So you need to be an individual and who is working on this full time and working on your idea, which is at the POC stage. So under this grant, there is a benefit of rupees 10 lakhs for developing your prototype. And if you wanted to apply for this particular grant, then you need to visit the website which is mentioned over here. So if in case while you're applying for this grant, you need any assistance or you need any support from GUSEC, then we'll be happy to provide that as well. Another grant from the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, is Nidhi EIR. EIR stands for Entrepreneur in Residence. So this particular scheme is developed to support an individual who is working on any technology-based idea. So this is a kind of an assistance which is being provided. So the eligibility for this particular grant is that the individual applicant should be an Indian citizen and should not be having any source of income. There should be a minimum 4 years of formal full-time undergraduate or postgraduate education which that particular person should have availed, or they can have a 3 years of degree or diploma program and should have a 2 years of full-time work experience. So these are the criteria. Either they should have a full 4 years of formal education, or they can have a 3 years of education and 2 years of work experience. But if we talk about the formal education, then the basic degree should be the basic degree or a diploma should be in science or engineering. So this is the mandatory requirement, and the individual should register for the pre-incubation at the incubation center. So if they wanted to apply for this particular grant, they need to get associated with some incubation center and they should enroll their idea, register their idea for pre-incubation programs, and should be working on this their technology-based idea full time. So they cannot do this as a part time as well, and they should not be holding more than 10% of shares in any other companies. So if these criteria are fulfilled, and if you believe that you are eligible for this particular grant, you can visit their website, which is www.nitiEIR.in. So you can apply for this particular assistance, which is being provided by Department of Science and Technology. But I believe the applications for Niti EIR are open at certain intervals. So you can keep visiting their website and keep yourself posted. And whenever the applications are open, you can apply. And if in case again you believe that you need an assistance from GeoSec in terms of an incubation, you can apply for an incubation and get assistance. Can get support from GeoSec as well. So yeah, Malay, before going ahead to the patent support, do we have any questions?
Yes. So before we move towards questions, I would like to do some clarifications. So as Ankit mentioned, DST matching support is equity based and not grant based. So and that comes with the discussion of DST as well as the GBFL, which are the competent authorities of that scheme. Uh, Again, a registered partnership can't avail funds under the schemes of DST as well as TIDE. So they need private limited or a LLP entity. So once they apply for the application of these schemes, and later they form the LLP or private limited after being selected in the round one. It's possible, but it is advisable to check the eligibility of the scheme time to time whenever it's published on the social media channels. Again, the as Ankit discussed about the big grant from BIRAC. So big is a national level grant by DBT, and details are available on their BIRAC website. So clarification with what kind of grants or support is being provided under those schemes can be sought from that website itself. So better it's in again, if you have any more queries regarding Startup Gujarat or SSIP and TIDE, you can always come to us. But as certain guidelines, certain grants are not being processed by GeoSec, but although you can send us your questions and we can clarify on that. So before I jump to a question, so Dinta Vagasha is again asking, is BIRAC grant a fund for manufacturing agriculture product?
Yeah, it can. See, as mentioned in the kind of work, kind of prototype development work included in this scheme. I believe agriculture is also included. So yeah, they can apply.
Correct.
We are going to share a detailed guidelines for all these grants in our last slide, and also we are going to share this PPT with all of you via link. So after the once we conclude this presentation, we'll be sharing a link on the screen. You can copy that link, and you will be getting this presentation. So there is no issue.
Right. Hiren is asking, if a startup get the grant from SAS, will it be eligible for TIDE grant? So as I said earlier, if you finish and successfully utilize the grant, the earlier grant, then you may be eligible for the TIDE. It's again based on that eligibility criteria at that point of time when the call for applications comes. So
I would like to add over here. So let's say if he has availed SAS scheme for developing prototype development, and he has got 10 lakhs of rupees under that scheme. So now if he wants to go ahead with the TIDE grant, he may be eligible depending upon if that particular 10 lakhs of assistance was sufficient for the development of the product, because this 10 lakhs of cap doesn't suffice all the startups, right? So few of the startups may be happy with these funds, few require some more funds, right? So that depends upon the requirement of that particular startups, that what is the exact requirement, plus the due diligence report and the utilization of the assets grant, that what level of work has been done with that particular support. So considering all these aspects, the decision may be taken ki should that particular startup be eligible for the tied grant or not.
Correct. The next question coming from Vikram Parekh. He is asking for matching equity support. Is there a time frame within which the support is provided? So, for example, he's saying we can approve today, but raise seed round 6 months from now. Will the 25% grant via GUFL be available?
So there's a criteria that if they have raised some kind of a money, they need to apply for this particular grant within 6 months. So if they are not applying within 6 months, then they are not eligible.
Correct. Uh, I guess no more questions as of now, so I'll jump to the IPR part. So government do support, apart from key operations of a startup, government also supports your intellectual property, which you would like to secure via any of these four things called patent, trademark, copyright, and design. So patent is widely known for securing the intellectual property, where you have developed an innovative product or a liquid or anything which is tangible, which comes under the Patentability Act. So those can be patented. Trademark is again widely known for startups usually do the trademark of logos. Copyright is again a literature work that's being secured by copyright, and design again a subsidiary of the patent where operations are not involved, but the design of a product, the outer design of the product can be secured with the design applications. So Ankit, can you move up the slide? Thanks. So SSIP has a good good enough provision for securing patents and other IPRs. But as I said, patent is widely used as a tool to secure any kind of research, any kind of product that usually comes in the market. And before that, the innovators or inventors of that product secures it with patent. So the usual, there are basic two kinds of patent application. One, you do a provisional application. You get a 12-month window, and then within that 12-month window, you file a complete application. Uh, so the benefit to do a provisional application, you need to submit a little details to the patent office. They keep the specific invention in the name of yours for 12 months. So you get a more time to do the rest of the formalities to process your complete application. So you don't need to submit every document in the provisional application. You submit little details in the provisional, then you go for the complete application. So as per the SSIP, as Ankit said, the eligibility stays same. Any student or a recent alumni from last 5 years can apply to this patent grant. There is an application link. You just fill in it. You will receive a copy of a PDF. You just submit it with a little more details that what kind of feasibility you are looking at, or what kind of commercialization of that patent you are looking at. So once you submit all those details, the application goes in front of a IPR scrutiny committee. They duly check whether what kind of feasibility is there, how much potential commercialization can be done, how good and significant it is to secure that product with a patent, and then your application has been selected, and then the fund will be disbursed. So usually this process takes a month or so, but the committee is always there to expedite your application. So once you apply, you just need to keep a couple of things ready, like you can just scroll through a prior art search, that what kind of prior art search report needs to be submitted in the patent office, because before filing any patent you need to check whether the same kind of patent is filed by someone else or not. So that's being done as a prior art search. So usually prior art search gets you to a certain level whether when you realize that this patent is worthy of submitting application or not, because somehow you might come across a same idea or similar idea while prior art search. So once you are done with prior art search, you get a good positive result. You go little more in depth. You prepare certain drawings. You prepare certain algorithms of how your product or thing operates in terms of process. You need to briefly mention that what kind of mechanism is being involved in the patent application, and then you go forward with the filing of a patent application. Can we go to next slide? Yes. So again, a very important initiative by Startup India. There is a different scheme called Startup Intellectual Property Protection. So this is specifically meant for any startups which are recognized by a government of India definition. So there is a specific, terms. If you fulfill, then you can be considered as a startup as per the government of India. So there is a scheme called SIPP in which any startup can avail fund for patent, trademark, and design. So if you have, you can see the link. It's ipindia.nse.in. You can just log into that. There is a list of empaneled facilitators for each, three patent, trademark, and design. You can select the any of the facilitator. You need to tell them that I want to file under the SIPP scheme, and this is my innovation. This is my requirement, and government will facilitate the funding assistance to the facilitator directly. So, but yes, there are certain recognized empaneled facilitators for all three departments which you would like to get into, and there are certain guidelines also laid out by the government regarding this scheme. You can just find out on ipindia.nic.in. Yes, can we go next? Okay, so yeah, so Ankit, you can come in. By the time I would like to take up some questions. Is GUSEC support for any startup competition at Gujarat or India level? I didn't understand the question. So, Dinta, if you can mention your question again, we might be able to cater you better.
So I
Yes.
guess she means to us that if in case some sort of support is required from the incubation center in order to apply for any competition or some competition or some event, then should we can are we supporting or not? So yeah, we can support depending upon what kind of support it is required. So that depends on events and what support required. Yeah.
Right. Divyesh is asking, can you please list the number of schemes for healthcare technology-based startups?
So all the sector agnostic schemes are also applicable for the healthcare. And if in case he wants to know more about the specific scheme for the healthcare, then I think the Startup India website is the source where they can find one. Yeah.
Correct. Devan Bhai is asking, is there any support available for getting BIS certification?
So that depends upon the scheme. So as of now, there's no particular criteria or some scheme where the DIR support is provided. But if in case we find some, we'll be definitely sharing it in our next session.
Thanks. I guess Ankit, we can move ahead.
Yeah. So talking about we are already talking about the Startup India website. So most of the startups needs to have a DPIIT certificate, which helps them at various levels. So if in case they wanted to have that certificate for DPIIT certificate, then they can visit the startupindia.gov.in website where they need to register to have a DPIIT certificate. Okay. So additionally, all those and innovators and startup enthusiasts are highly encouraged to keep visiting the Startup India website, because there's a lot of good resources available where you will be knowing about the various schemes and subsidies and registration certificates, and how they can collaborate with government in order to do some business, how they can connect to the investors. So there's a lot of things available for startups on the particular website. And also at the similar at the Gujarat level, we have startupgujarat.in as well, where there's a lot of benefit available for the startups in terms of monetary and non-monetary. So there's also some schemes for the MSA under MSME. So keep visiting these websites, as this will help you to keep updated on what support the government is providing to startups, and depending upon the schemes and what are your particular criterias and operations, you can identify the relevant scheme and apply for that particular scheme, and also connect with us in order to get support for that particular scheme. So keep visiting this website, and also keep a check on the guidelines and all the specifics, as everything is mentioned on this website. So these are really very good resources that one should stay updated with. The other thing which I wanted to share about, like how the government can procure from startups, because if the government is supporting startups, then the government is also interested to do business with them and buy products and their services from them. So as everyone knows, so there's a government marketplace which we call it as GEM. So if a startup wants to sell their product or a service to the government, they need to get registered on this particular portal. So if in case they wanted to do this, they need to have DPIIT certificate. So so first, ideally, they can avail this certificate, and then they can register on this particular portal of government marketplace, because without the certificate, they'll not be able to do business with the government. And using this GEM portal, the startups can also arrange their pilots with the government, because not necessary that the full-fledged solution would be available. There would be accreditation, so they can tie up with the government departments after connecting via GEM portal. So here's also one interesting link which will guide you on how to register on the GEM portal. So let me quickly just show it to you. So this is the link. Here we land. So this is the Startup India website. So there's a basic FAQs mentioned, like about what is the public procurement, how can public procurement benefit your startups, what is the GEM and what is the GEM startup runway, so how they can register on the GEM. So they can you need to have BPIIT recognition number. You can use your mobile number which was used for the DPIIT certificate number. Use your PAN number and Aadhaar number, and this is how you will be able to register on the GEM. And what are the benefits does a DPIIT recognized startups get on the GEM? So they will be getting the requirement exemption. So because there are stringent criteria are in place, so they will be getting benefits, exemptions under this, if they are DPIIT registered startups and they are registering on the GEM. They'll be able to do their pilot projects. They'll be having a good feedback mechanism in place, and there will be a flexibility where there will be no restricted categories on GEM, meaning that the new and innovative products can be published on that particular platform. So here you can sell your particular product and the services as well. So these are the details available on the Startup India website, so where you can go through it. And if in case you wanted to register for DPIIT certificate, then here is the so over here you can go and register your startup. So after filling up the basic details, you will be able to register for the DPIIT certificate. Talking about what are things required for registering DPIIT certificate, let me just quickly show it on the website. So here is the link. So these are the criterias for registering for getting a DPIIT certificate. So the period of existence and operation should not be more than 10 years. So if in case you want to avail DPIIT certificate, it should be incorporated as a privately limited company or a registered partnership firm or an LLP. Your annual turnover should have not exceed 100 crore for any financial year since its incorporation. The entity should not have been formed by splitting up or reconstructing an already existing business. And the innovative and scalable eligibility should work towards development of or improvement of a product, process, or service that can be scaled. So these are the criteria which needs to be fulfilled if in case a startup needs to avail a DPIIT certificate. So as I mentioned earlier, you can go here and register as your startup and upload the relevant documents in order to get the DPIIT certificate. So that's the part on the government procurement, gen procurement. So here is the slide where you will be finding more information about the startup assistance scheme, the electronics and IT policy by government of Gujarat, the biotechnology ignition grant by BIG, the Nidhi Prayas scheme, Nidhi EIR scheme. So these are all the links which will take you to the detailed eligibility criteria where you can go through various informations that are in place. So before I ask you guys to connect with us via YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and keep subscribed to the channel, and so that you will be posted with what all things which we do. Malay, do we have more questions?
So I guess there is the one question from Bharat Tripathi.
Yes.
He is asking, can an e-commerce avail for any of the grants?
Yeah, they can. They can. I think they can avail. Yeah.
Right. So Bharat, you can also apply for the SSIP as well as the TIDE as and when whenever available. There was also a query regarding a startup application going unattended without a justification. I guess it was from Samaj. So to everyone, I would like to tell you, you can apply your idea on our website via gusec.edu.in/apply. You will see a small, a brief Google form, an application form, sorry, and you need to fill certain details about yourself, your team, and your idea, along with a presentation if you have made. So due to a large volume of applications, we are not able to provide an individual feedback on all applications via the platform, and you can just see the whether your idea is selected or not selected via a tracking startup application tracking via our website. But if you feel that you would like to know that on what grounds your applications were rejected, so you can just drop an email that this is my application and this is my idea. We'll get back to you with a justification that why we couldn't go ahead with your idea. But we are more than happy to support as much startup as possible. I guess Ankit, there is no more questions, so we may.
Yeah. So I would highly encourage all the innovators and startup enthusiasts out there to, if you believe you have a good idea that can be converted into a startup which can solve a really major problem in the society and can be scaled. So I would highly encourage you guys to apply for the incubation support at GUSEC by visiting our website, that is gusec.edu.in. So we will be happy to provide you the mentorship support. We'll be happy to give you access to the fundings. We'll be happy to network and connect you to the relevant people and the companies and the entities and the governments. And we'll be happy to provide you all the tools and resources which will help you to grow and develop at the larger level. So once again, thank you all for connecting for this session. So it was really engaging, and it was really good that all of you were asking a lot of questions. So this proves that yes, this session was helpful and beneficiary to all of you. So still, if we are not able to answer more questions, then we would encourage you to write an email to us at contact@gusec.edu.in. We'll be happy to answer your questions. And if in case you have any other incubation regarding queries, you can always reach out to us. So we'll be sharing this particular slide. You can copy this particular URL, and from through this URL you will be able to get this particular pitch deck, where you can again go through all the eligibility criteria and the process regarding all the grants. So once again, thank you all.
Thank you everyone for joining. Take care.